third is Suarez. Goodell comes running in. He's under it, makes the catch. Here's the throw to the plate. It's in the air. He is out! Cameron Redpath's on! Oh, man, what a play! Deep to right field. Way up there and way second down,
And welcome back to the Stupid Money Podcast. We actually have a somewhat positive episode for once because the Phillies are 5-3 since last time we spoke last week. Swept Oakland, which was really nice. Honestly, the offense was really bad in those games, but the pitching was just insane. I mean, Oakland's offense is a joke. But then came home for what felt like the biggest regular season homestand this team has had in quite a while, with projected 3 against the Braves, 3 against the Mets. Only 2 ended up happening with Atlanta due to rain. They lost both of those. Again, the offense did not show up. And then won 2 out of 3 against the Mets over the weekend. But again, I would say the offense didn't really show up. I mean, we'll start here because yesterday was maybe one of the funniest games I've ever watched. Where the Phillies are down 6-3 in the 8th to the Mets, and Buck Showalter stays away from his top 2 relievers, who I think went the day before, but still goes to 2 guys I'd never even heard of, honestly. And the Phillies managed to score 4 runs with only having a single in the inning. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, but at the same time, it gave me no confidence in the Phillies offense. It's just, wow, the Mets are really bad.
Yeah, well, I'm going to check you on that. One of the guys that pitched yesterday has a National League championship ring with us.
Oh, that's right. Nick.
2 games for
that is right.
last year. But, Showalter is kind of like, he's like Girardi was for us last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he said, yesterday for them reminds me exactly of the game in Atlanta for us last year, where Nick Nelson got the save and Knebel said, "Hey, I'm good." And Girardi's like, "No, you're not." Because after the game in his post-game presser, Showalter was like, Ottavino wasn't good to go, and I was saving Robertson for the 9th. But then Ottavino said that he was good to go. So, like, they just mixed signals over there. Yeah, it said more about the Mets than it said about us, I think, as far as where the offense is at. I think it was just overall a frustrating week for the offense, even going back to the Braves series. They played 2 games against the Braves, 1 extras, so 19 innings. And I think that they looked evenly matched for about 17 of those 19 innings, and they lost both games by more than 1 run, which is, it sounds like a knock on the pitching, but the pitching was incredible that series.
Yeah.
I was at the game, I guess Tuesday was the first game of that series, and like they peppered Strider, but everything was on the ground or single, and it's like you were just waiting for, even when it was 1-0 in like the 7th and Ranger was dealing, or whenever Riley hit the home run, you just knew something bad was going to happen because the offense left so many guys on against arguably the best stuff as far as pitching goes in the National League, maybe the major leagues. It's like you can't do that against good pitchers and expect to win, especially when the other team's offense is that good.
Yeah, that brings up kind of a couple of points I wanted to talk about. And I said this in the group chat yesterday. I'm like, when was the last time this team had a 3-run home run? And I looked, it was when Schwarber had 2 of them in that game against the Nationals at the beginning of the month. And I don't know if they have one since then. They might have one against Detroit in there somewhere. I think there was a big home run, but they are not hitting home runs with guys on. They're not hitting doubles with guys on. It is like single, like pop out strikeout has been the majority of their innings, it's felt like. And, you know, we're going to talk about Bryce Harper because I don't know what's going on there, but every home run is a solo home run. I don't know what it is. It's either solo home runs or they're Trey Turner's like slapping some singles to the left side of the infield. That's been about it.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, not even with guys on, but like runners in scoring position specifically, it's like they don't have any type of, not even power, just like any type of hit tool. Like Turner had 2 big singles with the bases loaded against the Mets in the first game to kind of break it open, and game 2, I think it ended up not mattering because the Mets won.
He had one.
Game,
he had one in each game actually.
Yeah. Because yesterday he tied it too.
Yeah.
But like that's it with runners in scoring position. Like Castellanos and JT had horrible at bats yesterday with guys in scoring position. Harper's just missing pitches, but like he's done nothing since he came back with runners in scoring position. Like he might be batting below 100 with guys in scoring position. It's been tough to watch from the entire lineup when guys get on second base. And that's just, you can't score runs when you go single, and then you can't do anything after that. I don't know if they're just pressing. I don't know if it's approach or what, but it's gone on too long to say, or for us to expect them to just break out of it one day. Like something mechanical or something in their mindset just has to change before we could confidently trust them with runners in scoring position again.
Right. And another guy that this has kind of become an issue in the last week both in the field and at the plate has been Schwarber. The extra inning game against Atlanta, that game might still be going on if he could catch a routine liner. I mean, that was so bad. I can't believe he dropped that. And it's at the point now where him getting out of left field means more than getting a first baseman, I think. What Bryce Harper becomes if he becomes first baseman at some point this season, we'll see. But that's honestly becoming a bigger worry. And, I don't know if June Schwarber really isn't here. I don't think he has 7 home runs in the month, but he had 7 in May too. So it's not like he did anything more than he's been doing. But I mean, he's 0 for his last 15, 16, something like that. It's not been good. He only has 1 homer in his last 7 games. So it's not exactly what we've been looking for. He's still walking a decent amount, which is nice, but he has 20 home runs, but it feels like with a 181 average, like more has to come out of there.
Yeah. Going back to him in the field, we watched Rhys Hoskins in left field for a year. I don't have any numbers to back this up. I think Schwarber's like I think it's more painful to watch Schwarber try and play left field than it was Hoskins.
Mm-hmm. And part of that might be because we didn't we knew he was a first baseman, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I saw something interesting yesterday. It was about Schwarber, but like he's notoriously been a very good hitter against the Mets, like throughout the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
I saw this during the game. Going into like the 7th or 8th inning before Real Muto had that single in the 8th, he was the lone hit in the 8th. But Schwarber and JT this year against the Mets were combined 0 for 33.
Yeah, I saw
that. Those are 2 of like the bigger guys in your lineup that you're paying a lot of money to perform. I mean, JT obviously a terrific defender for the catcher position, but like Schwarber, you're pretty much solely paying him to hit.
Right. You knew what you're getting into, yeah.
We know what we're getting with the average. Like, I'm not expecting him to all of a sudden hit 260 or 270, but like, you're paying the guy to hit, not strike out 35% of the time. And they're just not, especially him, he's just having a down year in all aspects. And people look at the 20 home runs and say, oh, great, he's hitting home runs. That's what you signed him to do. Well, no, we signed him to get on base, which he is. He's walking well. But the slug is kind of just home run or walk at this point. And then anything else is strikeout or, I don't know, something lazy. I just feel like even his outs aren't particularly hard.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is he has 20 home runs, but he only has like 42 RBIs. So considering 20 of those RBIs come from just him, hitting the home run, he really isn't giving you much more production at the plate in terms of driving in runs when he's not hitting these solo home runs. And it was honestly kind of a problem last year. He had 46 home runs and less than 100 RBIs, which is like insanely hard to do considering you're gifted 46 of them, with the home runs. So that's another thing where I just, he's not. And the thing is, there are guys coming on or on base when he's coming up, because all of a sudden Marsh is back up over 280, which is good to see. And, Stott's been consistently in the 290s. Bohm's been up and down, but those guys have been getting on base for him. And then he's kind of been the one stranding them. Whereas now Turner's kind of clutching up with guys on. It's a little frustrating that he's the guy on deck when Schwarber's ending these rallies.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing, Turner's his average is 280 in June, 279, 280. So like he's playing better, and I mean Marsh was scorching hot on the homestand, and it's good to see that for as bad as the offense has been, like some guys are. I mean the articles keep coming out about how they're staying after with Kevin Long and making adjustments, and as the season goes on, they're kind of not just accepting the slump. And they're getting in the cage and they're actually working on mechanics, and they're not just being stubborn about their approach and be like, oh, well, I've done this before. I made it to the major leagues. Like I'll hit at some point. Like they're actually making adjustments with how people are pitching them and where their swing's at.
Yeah. So this kind of brings up where I want to take this, because the trade deadline is about a month away now. We were always crying fifth starter since the beginning of the year, fifth starter. They probably still need a fifth starter. Like Christopher Sanchez has been okay, but I don't know if he's long. We'll see. Painter starting to throw, bullpen sessions. McGarry's in AA, Abel's in AA. We'll see with those guys. They probably still need a fifth starter. They might need a right-handed bullpen piece too, but a right-handed bat seems like the number one thing right now this team needs. And we were talking about this. Report came out. The Pirates might sell. If McCutchen asks to be moved to a contender, the Pirates will probably, give him the go-ahead. This really reminds me in a way of when Jim Thome came back to the Phillies, and then that team stunk, and they did they trade him or like cut him or let him go wherever he wanted? I can't remember exactly what happened, but that
I don't remember.
Yeah, the year he came back and then they just let him go. That's kind of deja vu here with the Pirates and McCutchen. So, McCutchen, I don't know. Maybe he's 36, and is he a better left fielder than Schwarber? He hasn't played in the outfield much this year. I think he's primarily DH'd for the Pirates. So, is he an upgrade over Schwarber? I think he'd be great for the clubhouse, because when he went down in 2019, that's when that season really started to go to crap. So bringing him back, would it help? I don't know. I think he has 9 home runs. He's hitting like 270 something. I think it comes down to, is he a better defender than Schwarber?
I particularly have no interest in Kutch.
Okay.
I think he's an upgrade over Schwarber, but at the same time, it's like, how much of an upgrade? If we're going left field route, I'd much rather Adam Duvall. We talked about him in the offseason about how he would be like the guy they should have signed.
They should have over Harrison.
Yeah, but they didn't. The Red Sox are in last place, and like oddly enough, I mean the Pirates have been atrocious the last 2.5 weeks, but like I think they're less likely to sell than the Red Sox right now, just because the current state of their respective divisions and their leagues. Like the American League's a gauntlet, whereas the National League, there's a lot of teams jumbled up, but like teams that are jumbled up, like the Giants have been playing way over their pay grade. The Marlins actually like kind of scare me, just as far as what they're capable of because of all the assets they have. But like the National League is much more like clumped together as far as reachable teams. Like the Red Sox, they're not going to catch anybody in their own division, let alone the Astros are hanging on to a wild card.
Yeah.
And like the Angels are kind of lumped in there too. It's like those teams are all substantially better than the Red Sox. So I think Duvall would be the better target because one, he's shown that he can be the deadline acquisition that kind of gets you to a World Series.
Yes.
Like the Braves got him a few years ago and from Miami, and he wasn't having a particularly good year, and then all of a sudden he got to Atlanta and just started raking. So like, and he's played Gold Glove defense before in his career. I know he's not as young as he used to be as far as agility in the field, but like that's a noticeable upgrade over Schwarber. Whereas we kind of saw what McCutchen was in the field. Granted, he was closer to his ACL surgery when he was with us, but like you said, he hasn't really even like touched the outfield this year.
Yeah, I saw people bring him up, but he is playing, I think, a little too much DH now. Duvall is definitely number one, I think, in terms of someone they should go after. Brent Rooker with the A's has the numbers. I don't know with him. Like some guys, it's easier for them to play on teams like that where there's zero expectations. Now, the flip side could be you put him in a better lineup, maybe his numbers are even better. But this is pretty much his first like full year. He's 28 years old. He's bounced around for about 5 years. I don't know with him. It really just seems like if you're going a righty left fielder with some power, those are the three you're looking at.
Yeah, I personally, I don't love Rooker.
Yeah.
So listen to this. Is actually interesting. I actually heard this on a podcast that like Dallas Braden calls the games for NBC Sports, and he said that, I mean, obviously Rooker got off to like a scorching hot start in the first month, and like nobody ever really heard of him before, and he was really good in college. I think he went to Mississippi State, and he might have been Golden Spikes or whatever. But this is kind of like you said, his first real success at the major league level. So he hits. I have the stats pulled up. In April and March, he hit 353, slugging 779 with 9 home runs. But then he went on MLB Network at the end of April and was like, this is my approach, like based on what I'm seeing. Since then, in May, he hit 198, and in June, he's hitting 190. So he put the book out on himself, and now people are pitching him differently based on what he said.
That's funny.
And his stats have just gone off a cliff. So, like, he has good numbers, but they're inflated from the start of the year.
That's honestly kind of funny. I did not know that. That is hysterical. So that brings me then to the internal options. And that is these two guys. Johan Rojas, Carlos De La Cruz, both in Double-A. See their numbers there. Rojas, great defender, speedy guy, not a ton of pop, but as you can see, a lot of doubles and triples in there, a lot of stolen bases, hitting 317, which the big knock on him throughout the system was, he can't make enough consistent contact. The speed's there, the glove's there. Well, I know Redding kind of, we saw it with Dylan Cousins. We saw it with Scott Kingery. That place has a tendency to inflate numbers. He's there. I get it. I mean, he's certainly an upgrade over Schwarber in the field, and these numbers are there. Carlos De La Cruz, a guy who a lot of people were down on and then had a monster spring training with the Phillies. And I mean, he's 14 home runs. He could play first base. I think they started putting him there because he was playing the outfield, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
so
I think
a little
right.
A little versatility there. Both these guys are righties, I'm pretty sure too. So, I mean, I know they're only in Double-A, and it's only been, I think, 50-something games, 60. Did these guys make the move to Triple-A, July 1st, and you see what they do for 3 weeks? And if you like what you see, you give them a try, or, with the deadline, I don't know what you do, but these two guys, these numbers are hard to ignore with the problems the Phillies have in left field and at first base.
Yeah, I'm more intrigued by De La Cruz. I feel like Rojas, I don't fully trust the bat. Like the 317 average is great, but like I feel like with him, it's always been elite defense, elite speed. Can the hit tool kind of catch up to get him to the major leagues? And while it seems like he's having a really good year, I would like to see him in Triple-A for a decent amount of time before I could fully trust that. Because I feel like if it's either him or Schwarber, if we'd actually go that route, like I'd rather the potential of power with Schwarber. De La Cruz, I feel like I see a highlight of this dude like every other day. He's 23, so it's not like you'd be rushing him through the system, but he is kind of a newer face as far as success. So again, I'd like to see him at AAA before they do any like rash jumps to the majors. But I think if he hits at AAA for like, if you bring him up July 1st and he hits for like a month and a half, will you kind of give Derek Hall another retry since the injury at first base? And De La Cruz is performing at AAA. I don't think a September call-up for him's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And I know Ellie De La Cruz is a way better prospect than these two guys and has way more potential in the majors. But just to see kind of the energy around the Reds since he's come up, they won 12 straight games. They've won 12 out of 14. At this point, they lost 2 to the Braves. That's still very good, though. Could a young guy like this come up and just give a jolt to this team, which at times the offenses look kind of dead? Like De La Cruz hitting home runs or Rojas hitting doubles and then stealing bases and making crazy catches in the outfield. Like, I feel like, this is an older roster in a sense. I know, the daycare, Marsh, Stop, Bohm, I get it, but Harper's 30, Schwarber's 30, Castellanos 31, Realmuto 32, Trey's 29. Like, these are older guys. Like, kind of bringing up a younger guy, Rojas 22, De La Cruz 23. Could it rejuvenate them a little bit? Like, just seeing like how Joey Votto at 39 is having fun now all of a sudden. Like, it's making me kind of think, could the Phillies try to replicate that in a way?
Yeah, and we saw it, like, again, Ellie De La Cruz is like a freak of nature as far as talent and ability. He's the National League Player of the Week this week. He like 400. We saw it last year, even when Maton got called up, back up. He wasn't like playing well. Like, we know what Maton is. He just got sent down today. He's hitting like 160. He was never like a 500 hitter with us last year, but he just came up and he had like this infectious personality, and he was just kind of like a maniac and just like revitalized the clubhouse in the dog days. I think there's definitely something to that. It's not just a blank statement where people say, oh, the young kid brought energy. Like, there's genuine like reason to that, to believe that's happened before.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something you need to consider if the offense continues to scuffle. We'll see. Obviously going to one of these guys would be cheaper, obviously, because you wouldn't have to give up prospects or give up these guys in particular for, someone like Adam Duvall is not going to cost you anything though. But like if we're talking Paul Goldschmidt, something big along those lines, which I don't know, the Cardinals don't look too good, but
I believe Duvall's on a 1-year deal, I think.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, it shouldn't cost you more than like a back end top 30 prospect, if anything.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens there. So the second thing I wanted to get to was these wild card standing, and this picture is stretched out of its mind because I took it from a phone picture. The Phillies are somehow, which seems crazy to me, 3 games back of the last wild card spot. Yeah, the Marlins and the Giants, I don't know. The Dodgers are not going anywhere. That team is good. It comes down to the Phillies play Chicago this week, 3 there. They do not face Stroman or Steele, which is
huge,
very helpful. I think the Mets are done. I told you before the year I didn't think the Mets were even making the playoffs. I thought their team. I thought they were. I thought they were too old, especially pitching, and it's kind of shown that. The Padres, I don't know there either. I had them. I honestly thought they were going to win that division. So I
did too.
I was wrong.
Arizona's been crazy.
Yeah, I guess I'm wrong there. We were talking about this. Like, do we want teams like the Mets and the Padres to get buried now, even if it means a team like the Brewers and the Giants kind of gain some ground? Like, are we more afraid of them than those teams, or does it come a point where the Padres and the Mets are shot and it's time to legitimately worry about the Marlins, the Giants, the Brewers?
Now that you put it like that, I'd almost rather the Mets and Padres get buried.
Okay.
Just that. I mean, their rosters are so talented.
Right. Way better than these other teams. Yeah.
I mean, I'll get into it in a second. But like Miami actually scared. San Francisco, they don't. I don't know how they're doing this. Like I genuinely like don't think they have a good roster in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
Their starters have been surprisingly good. Like, and I guess I don't really know how his numbers look, but I just know that Camilo Duvall in the back of the bullpen's filthy.
Very good.
But like this nonsense where Jock Peterson just like wins wherever he goes is starting to bother me because like the guy's not a good player.
Yeah.
And like it just seems like no matter where he goes, like they always just like he just has a clubhouse acting like they're so much better than they are, and then they just start winning, and it's always at our expense, it seems, with the Braves and now the Giants ahead of us.
Yeah.
So it's just starting to bother me. The Marlins are interesting because their offense is like horrible, but like they're winning 1-0 games. Like their record in 1-run games are like historically good.
Right. We talked about that. Yeah.
And the guys on their IL right now are Chisholm.
He just came back today, actually.
Chisholm's back. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they still have Segura, and who's been horrible this year, but
Yeah,
like,
he's
we
been
know
bad.
that Gene's a good hitter.
Yeah.
And Avisel Garcia. So like those are two pretty important pieces of what they envisioned as far as their lineup, and they could get back eventually. And then their pitching, like Yuri Perez has been, like if he was up for the entire year, he's very well in the mix for Cy Young. And then they have all these guys in the minors still that are they have such like a compilation of young pitching. They can easily flip these guys for good offensive players at the deadline. So that's why they scare me. Like their record, they've outperformed for sure, and they have negative run differential, but like they have the assets to kind of shore up their holes that they've been covering up for the first 80 games.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. If the Phillies want to get the Marlins out of this wild card spot and take it for themselves, they're going to have to do it themselves. They have 10 games left with this team, and I'm looking at the Marlins schedule, and I'll be honest with you, they had a very easy month of June.
Yeah, I think they have the fifth hardest now, the fifth hardest schedule the rest of the year.
They played Oakland, Kansas City, the White Sox, the struggling Mariners, the Nationals, the Blue Jays who are okay, and the Pirates.
And the Blue Jays beat them.
Yeah, the Blue Jays did take 2 or 3, yes. Now they go to Boston and they go to Atlanta, so that'd be kind of tough. They then come home and they have 4 with St. Louis, who is somehow the third worst team in the NL. And then they play the Phillies right before the All-Star break at home. After the break, they have Baltimore, St. Louis again, Colorado, which is easy, Tampa Bay, Detroit, and then the Phillies again. If the Phillies are going to catch them, it really seems like they have to do it themselves, because outside of a series with Atlanta and a 2-game series with Tampa Bay, they play bad teams again. So if someone's going to unseat them, the Phillies have to do this themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, they played well against Miami last year, but like historically, that doesn't leave me with much confidence.
No,
especially with how our offense is going with the arms that Miami has, and like Alcantara's arguably been like their second or even their worst pitcher as far as like numbers. Like he's been really bad.
Yeah.
So like if he gets going again, they just have. It's the same story with the Marlins every year. They have the arms, but can the offense kind of catch up? But yeah, I think it'll come down to our record against them, which should be interesting since we have basically all of the games left against them.
Yeah, Phillies are already down a game to them, by the way. It's 2-1 them from that series back in April, which was a mess. Yeah. So kind of turning the page here, a little more on the fun side, debate side, I guess. There was this today. So Talking Baseball from John Boy put out this tweet. You know, these guys would be Hall of Famers if their careers ended today. And I didn't have a problem with pretty much any of them, except they put Machado on there and no mention of Harper. And then this Yankees fans defend Bryce Harper because I think they feel like if their GM wasn't an idiot, he'd be on the Yankees. And like they have like a weird.
They had Clint Frazier in the outfield, so they couldn't sign him.
Right. So like Yankees fans do defend Harper, which I appreciate. But yeah, like right there you see it. Harper, 2-time MVP versus none. OPS higher, 4 less home runs, but Harper has played in a lot less games due to these injuries he's had the last couple of years. WAR is almost the same. Like the slash lines are identical, but Harper slugs way more and he gets on base way more, but batting average are the same. And then John Boy kind of, I don't know, we're trying to like make a statement. They did like a vote in their office and it was 6-5 Harper. To me, this isn't close. And the head-to-head last year in the playoffs kind of showed that to me. This is not much of a debate.
Did you watch that video, that the John Boy thing? The entire argument with Machado, they're like, "Oh, the defense."
Right.
That's why his F4 is higher. It's like, I don't think Machado's obviously levels ahead of Harper as far as defense at their position, but it's like, I'm not paying Bryce Harper $330 million to be a platinum glove defender. Like we all know what we're getting into. I'm taking Harper like every day of the week.
Yeah.
It's not even close to me.
No. And it was funny. Like then some of the comments from Machado were like he like revived a whole team and stuff. And Harper did the same thing. And the second thing is Tatis was there. They traded for Soto. Now I'll give the Bogarts sign there. But Harper got Castellanos to sign there, Schwarber to sign there, Real Muto to sign back, Wheeler to sign there, Trey just signed there. I could go on. Like Harper built this core in a way.
Yeah.
Like Machado was like part of the core, and the GM either they drafted well or traded well in the case of Tatis, or drafted well enough to trade for someone like Soto. So to me, the whole like building the franchise, Harper by far built the Phillies more than Machado built the Padres.
And like, if you like, obviously the last decade, the Phillies were very bad as far as record wise. So there wasn't really like necessity to open up the checkbooks or anything. But like to see what the ownership group has done since Harper's been here, like to actually get them to reinvest in the team and actually like, and obviously the playoffs last year helped so much as far as their motivation and the fans coming back, but like it's not even close as far as ticket sales and just an overall buzz around the state of the franchise. It's like Machado was there for 3 years before they actually got fans to show up. Like opening day, when it was Harper's first opening day when McCutchen hit that home run, Citizens Bank Park was sold out for the first time in who knows how long.
Yeah.
It took Machado 3 years to do that, and it was because he got Tatis and Soto to come with him.
Yeah, and, the other thing is, I know Harper has not had a Harper-esque year so far coming off the injury, but if you ask the average baseball fan, like from a fan of any team, who's the best player in the Phillies, the answer will always be Bryce Harper. I feel like if you asked a fan the same question about the Padres, you'll get Machado, but Tatis and Soto are also going to be
I'd probably
brought up.
If you ask me, I'd probably put Machado second, maybe third, but probably second because of the defense.
Yeah.
But I still don't know which one I'd put first, Tatis or Soto.
Right. So, I don't know. This was just funny to me today to think that like one is so far ahead of the other where you could put one in the Hall of Fame discussion and the other one not, when one's, I know Bryce didn't win the World Series. He beat Machado and beat him pretty bad to get there. Yeah. And 2 MVPs versus none. That was all I kind of needed from that debate. So that was funny, honestly, to see that today. But yeah, so 3, the Phillies schedule is really weird right now. So they came home, had the 6-game homestand, which was turned into 5. Then they they go to Chicago for 3 and come right back home to play the Nationals over the weekend, and then go on a Florida road trip against Tampa and Miami before the All-Star break. Really weird schedule, honestly. Chicago isn't bad. They're 2 games under 500 right now, I think, 37, 39.
They've been playing really well.
Yeah. Like I said, don't face their best 2 starters, which I think helps. Yeah. You get the Nationals at home. You've played very good at home this year, and the Nationals just are not a good team again. They're 17 under, I think.
Tied with the Mets for the last 50 games, I think, which is fun.
Yeah. I feel like you got 4-2, like, is the baseline here, I feel like, for these games.
Agreed.
Like, the bottom line. Like, I want to say 5-1. I just feel like that's so, like...
The thing with Washington, if you catch Gray and Gore, like, Gore's been really good. Mm-hmm. And Gray's been getting there. Like, they have... Like, it's not like Oakland where you're getting guys with 10 ERAs every day. It's like Washington, depending on how their pitching lines up, like, they have... And they have, like... I feel like their hitters just, like, kind of... Some of them, like, kill us. Like, I fully expect Meneses to do something, or like Lane Adams out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I agree. 4-2 at the worst.
Yeah. And then we'll probably talk before this road trip happens, but going to Tampa and going to Miami, the Phillies have not played that well on the road this year. Outside the last road trip, which was very successful. And you play you play the best team record-wise in baseball, and then you play the number 1 wild card team in the NL. So, you hope for 3-3, and I'll be honest with you, if that 3-3 is 0-3 against the Rays and 3-0 against the Marlins, like, you take that. Because they have to have tiebreakers over the Marlins if this comes down to having the same record for a wild card spot. So, if it's 3-3, I honestly prefer it be 0-3 against the Rays and 3-0 against the Marlins, because it's going to mean more down the stretch.
Yeah, agreed. I just looked. We're going to get Gray on whatever the first game of that Washington series is, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, Friday, and then probably Gore on Saturday, because neither of them are in the Seattle series.
Interesting. So. We will see. I mean, they'll see Wheeler, though, and I know they roughed Wheeler up last time they saw him, and Wheeler did not look good Sunday. So
yeah, I don't know with him, but like the thing with Wheeler is like his last 2 outings have been like bad as far as he goes with pitch count and pitch location and stuff. He gave up nothing in Oakland, and he gave up 4 against a good offense like the Mets. It's like. Granted, the 4 was on his behalf. Like, you can't walk the 9-hitter twice. But like Washington, they roughed him up last time, but I don't expect them to put 6 runs up on Wheeler. Even if he's missing spots a little bit like he has been, it's like you should still get by with like 2 or 3 against that offense.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see how that goes. Taijuan Walker and Suarez have been awesome. So
yeah,
get them, win those games. Hopefully 4-2 week at least. Would like more, but you got to be. Road trips are tough. Phillies did not play good in Wrigley last year.
No.
They played pretty good there the 2 years prior too. Like,
yeah, Brad Miller 3 home run game.
Yeah, they actually, like, before last year they beat up the Cubs when Harper's been there. Like the whole walk-off grand slam game and all that. Like,
yeah,
they have kind of owned them up until last year. So hopefully now
it's like one team every year. Last year it was the Cubs and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
This year, let's hope it's not the Cubs.
Yeah. Well, all right. We will see what happens, and we will see you next week. Remember to vote All-Star voting. I guess Harper can still make it as the DH with his 3 home runs. So
it's crazy that Castellanos didn't win.
Yeah, that's insane. We'll see if that changes.
Thompson's definitely going to bring him since he's managing, but
yeah,
it sucks.
Yeah, that is interesting. All right, so we will talk next time.